YouTube, my apologies. I'm a little late here. I was busy watching my trade. Forgot the time. It's bad. My bad.
It's okay.
Not
it's
that
okay.
my trade is
a few minutes
going
late.
anywhere. Like I said, it's been pretty darn slow. On YouTube, my apologies. I'm a little late here.
SPY's trying to hold this level here at 300, just over 300.
Good afternoon, guys.
Good afternoon,
Dr. Jonathan Katz. How are you, sir?
I am doing well. And you guys?
We're doing okay. We're hanging in here. We just gut-wrenching moves in the market today for some people.
Gut-wrenching. Yes, indeed.
Market's,
Wrenching my gut. Either one of you are welcome to grab the camera if you wish.
Okay, let me go. Lo and behold, there we go.
Always good to have a prettier face on with me. Excellent.
Excellent.
It's Brian, the man of 1,000 voices. There we go. All right. Fantastic. Whew. Well, as I was playing music earlier, saying we are going down, down, down this afternoon. We have just a little bit of a leak off. This trade I've got going here on a Ford, it's going absolutely nowhere. Still hasn't moved. I am gonna take that partial. I didn't actually do it, but I think it's gonna go down further. But I'm gonna take it here just in case because I'm gonna get distracted as I always do, and I don't want to risk losing it. So, with that, Dr. Katz, welcome. As we said,
thank you.
This has been a tough day for anybody that was excited about the market's recovery.
But can't be surprising.
You know,
No.
You'd think not, but I don't know. It seems that people are always unprepared, I guess, for these things in the market. Even if you think they should be ready, but it just doesn't seem to happen. Oh, of course, now Ford is going to go down after I took my partial. I guess that was it. I covered some shorts and caused it to move. Anyways, guys, interested if you're in the room, if you've got, or on YouTube for that matter, if you've got any questions you'd like to ask, like if you'd like me to speak properly, let's start there. Anyways, any questions you'd like to ask the good doctor, please feel free. We were talking earlier, Jonathan, about in the room about a number of things, but one of the things that made me think of you was about how somebody was saying, I can't seem to, I'm getting stopped out of my trades, and I should I'm trying to hold longer, but every time I hold longer, it goes against me. So basically, I feel like I'm getting punished every time I try and improve my trading style. And I thought that was an interesting comment. I'm paraphrasing liberally here, but that's how I was interpreting it, because it often feels like that when you change something on your strategy. Your mind, I find that I don't mentally adapt very well to that. So suddenly, every time something goes wrong, I'm like, well, it must be because I changed something. So I'm getting punished. Obviously, I have to go back to what I was doing.
Yeah, well, we tend to kind of give a little more weight and notice kind of the negative aspects of performance than the positive ones when we just feel good and kind of move on. So I think there's sometimes an unconscious selection bias when that happens. Right. Now, there's some good parts about that because we take note of things that are not working and maybe look at them a little more carefully to tweak or adjust or make changes. The danger is just like you don't want a baseball player who every time they don't get a hit, they change their batting stance when they come to the plate next time. You don't want to kind of constantly be changing up because that's a sheer indication of a lack of self-confidence or a lack of a plan. So patience and flexibility And resilience and tolerance are some difficult, painful lessons that any kind of good trader has to learn along the bumpy and often pothole-filled path of success.
Well, you know, that's a good point. You're right, because I mean, if every time you take a shot in a sport, for example, you can't go, oh, well, I didn't get that one in, so therefore I must be taking the shot wrong. That's not necessarily the case, right? You do have to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, and know that some will hit and some won't. Trading is exactly the same.
Yeah, and sometimes you need to look about the progress it's made, not just in a binary way, right? So let's say, to use a baseball player again, sometimes people look, did I get a hit or did I make an out on each at bat? But the reality is, if you were in a slump and not hitting very well, but you took an at bat and you selected good pitches to swing at and you made good contact, but the fielder may have caught the ball, you may have done a lot of things right. You weren't rewarded with a hit. But if you kind of dig down second tier, next level analysis, you actually see that you're moving in a positive direction. So trading is often like that. You can do a lot of things right and maybe make little or no money, but that you shouldn't ignore the process aspects of how you are kind of taking that trade, assessing it, and how you are executing it. Because that's really the way that you make these incremental changes to kind of get better.
I've been having to do some research here while you were answering that, because Nexpa asked a question here. He said, Dr. Katz, do you have any advice on how to deal with the effect of a hedonic adaptation in day trading? So I was busy looking up what the heck a hedonic adaptation is. So.
Well, there's a term that was used a lot. Well, hedonism is kind of the pleasure principle. There was an aspect very early on, back during the early part of the financial success, when a lot of people were drawn to finance for the money and getting on what people would start to call this hedonic treadmill, meaning they were just the accumulation of kind of material goods to make them feel better. And it became very treadmill-like, because if you didn't really value things in a kind of an internal way, then you were just on this treadmill trying to add more and more to feel good. So the hedonic adaptation of day trading is, you're kind of, it's hard because you want to be rewarded, you want to feel good, and you want to kind of create situations that are pleasurable and feel good. But the nature of a high performance business and endeavor like trading is that, again, it is filled with challenges and obstacles that one needs to face and overcome. And you actually need to embrace that. It's kind of a joyful kind of way, with a mindset that is taking on the challenges and the obstacles as a way of learning and getting better, and not just want to experience the joyful aspects of winning trades and the money and whatever else comes with that. You need to take joy in finding ways to dig yourself out of holes, into setbacks, and losing trades that are very difficult. Because I will tell you, and you could ask any athlete this, a baseball player may feel really good winning a game 12-0, but the game that they're losing 7-1 going into the bottom of the eighth and they come back and win is far more pleasurable, because the resilience and positive mindset in the face of despair that goes into winning is something that is very powerful in future success.
Well, you agreed. Yes, those comeback plays always make you feel more victorious, don't they, than when you just sail to an easy victory.
Yeah. So market seems to be bouncing a little bit here. Kind of interesting.
Oh my goodness!
Covering into.
What the heck is going on, Chris? We're getting way too deep here. I can't even. Yeah. I love our members interacting here. Chris.
See him, Chris. Yeah, I see Chris's thing. Chris, I think the philosophical, the existential aspects of Kant and Aristotle will have to take up maybe on another week.
It was Mac's answer that said, "Do you speak the English?" Anyways, all right, you guys are making me laugh here. On the web, more of a technical question, but Ryan, you're asking any advice for day one going live. It's next week for me after 3 months in sim. So first, congrats if you're feeling ready after 3 months. That's good. Hopefully, you're feeling confident in your strategies and you're comfortable with your trading style. I think the two pieces of advice I'd have, and maybe we should ask Megan since she just went live in the room here today. But I would say two things. One, take it slow, meaning trade small size. Your objective on day one is not to make a ton of money. It's to trade consistently against your rules. And second is just that, trade against your rules, right? Don't force trades. Don't avoid trades because you're afraid of losing. You got to stick to your style, and however you were trading in sim that was giving you that success and confidence to lead you to the point to go live, you got to do more of that. Again, much easier said than done. But the trick is to just slow and steady, keep her going, right?
And let me add one thing, Peter, that if I may, and that is be ready that first day for the emotional volatility to kick in a lot more than perhaps it did in sim. When you trade real money, the emotions associated with the dollar volatility associated with the trading is likely to be greater. So don't be kind of sideswiped by the fact that your emotions may be running at a much more roller coaster-ish type of manner than normal, because that's just a natural part when we have more on the line, that we experience emotions a little more intensely, both on the upside and on the downside.
Wow, Megan's saying that she did 6R today, so that's great. I mean, it sounds like you're green. That's very positive. So congrats.
Awesome.
Yeah, exactly as you say, Dr. Katz. We talk about that a lot. That you think live should be the same as sim. The tools are the same. The theory is the same. But you are not the same, right? You're aware of the fact that suddenly you're using real money versus play money, and whether you think that's going to affect you or not, be prepared for the fact that it likely will. And the more aware you can be of the fact that it's likely to affect you, the better you can manage it. If that made any sense.
Absolutely. And there is no shortcut for practice and getting reps like you did in sim. Just like any actor will tell you, even though the opening night performance feels a hell of a lot different than all the dress rehearsals,
Right.
The more they've practiced, the more dress rehearsal they've had, the more rehearsals they've done, the more reps they've had, the better prepared they are. And there is no substitute for good preparation. There's no guarantee of success, but it's hard to be successful without getting a lot of repetition and practice.
That's a great point. You're right, because the more reps you've had, the more you've practiced, you can settle those butterflies, if you will, quicker. The more you can sort of get on, and it will feel normal being live as opposed to it all feeling so different, which can just set you off for a whole day, as opposed to maybe it's just the first few minutes or the first couple of trades. So, anyways, good luck when you go live. I think it's always an exciting time, and I would say as well, don't be afraid that if something goes not according to your plan on that first trade or the first two trades, don't be afraid to take a step back. Even if that means stopping your trading for the day, even if you're planning to trade all day, or going back into sim. But at the very least, like physically take a step back from your terminal, your desk, your monitor, whatever you're at. Take a deep breath and say, all right, can I do this today? Am I okay? Before you get back in there, because as we said, that emotional moment, I guess, when you go live is something that you can think you're ready for it, but you never are. So.
And also, the more experience you get, the more kinds of markets you see and the more kinds of trades you see. And there again, that kind of not only the practice, but getting the knowledge base, it just you can't fast forward that. That happens over time and repetition and just seeing and learning more. And early on, you don't know what you don't know. That's not a criticism. That's just the reality. But be respectful of that, because there might be trades and situations that you have not seen before, and you want to be better safe than sorry in terms of how you approach them.
Urbano, I might need you to restate your question, because I'm not sure I understand it. Your question is, how do you manage previous losses on a different day when you're new to trading? I'm not exactly sure what you mean, so maybe if you can sort of reword it, it might get clearer. Chris, it's good to see you speaking English again. Just picking on Chris because he's been talking a lot. But he said he went through a 15-day, and this is a good observation. He went through a 15-day very, very green streak recently and felt like he couldn't lose. And I've been there. In fact, I've been there a couple of times, such that I get very nervous actually when I get on a green streak, because I know exactly what you describe happened. And you will go on to say, I had my tail handed to me recently. I removed all my stops and went gangbusters. Overconfidence can be a killer. And you're interested in Dr. Katz's thoughts. And I'll just say, Chris, first, you're not alone in that. Like I said, I've done that several times where I go on these green streaks where you do, right? You sort of, you get overconfident. You think, I've got this. I know how this works. And then you stop actually following the elements of success that probably got you to that point. And that's usually when disaster happens. But I'll let Dr. Katz provide some perspective.
Yeah, Peter, I mean, I agree with you. It is very hard when things are going well for that not to breed in, which is why actually successful traders over a long period of time really kind of stay in the moment and really kind of refocus on the next trade. Now, of course, you can't ignore the fact when you go to sleep on a Tuesday night and you say, oh, I've had 10 straight days of positive days. Like, that's just a reality. But what I would say, and this is interesting, and from a coaching point of view, I'm often one that I actually think I dig in harder with traders. Actually, they've done well. I'm actually a little more challenging, maybe critical, because traders at that point are actually in a good mindset and can tolerate more of that, and actually need to be extra vigilant on their trading because there is this unconscious tendency. Whereas when you've gone through a long period of time, I actually think often traders need a little more nurturing and support to kind of build up the confidence incrementally and gradually. So the way you avoid that by being your own self-coach is when you're doing well, that's the time to really dig in and challenge yourself to look at how you could be better, what you could do better, not just kind of kick up and, open a cold one and kind of celebrate every night, but really look a little more critically on how, where are the shortcomings, what you can get better at, because you're coming from a positive, confident place, and you want to use that confidence to actually propel you, not to kind of rest on your laurels, so to speak.
I'll pop in on this one too, and I can tell you from years of experience that when I have, if I start feeling overly confident, if I've had a bunch of good days, it makes the hair stand up on the back of my neck in some sense, because I know that, in the past when I've had really, been on a streak and I've been feeling really good and my account's looking great. I know that fall is just around the corner. So I tend to try to keep myself in check when I'm starting to feel overconfident. It's just from experience.
And what happens also is that people start focusing on the outcome. You're aware of the green days and you're kind of conscious of the outcome. And actually what led to this success was the process, being able to look every moment at what available trades are there, making good trading decisions in terms of entry and targets and sizing and stop loss, all the good disciplined process-oriented aspects that go into making each trade a potentially positive one. So as soon as you find yourself starting to think about the outcome, whether it was like, oh, am I going to have another green day today? Your mind is already at the end of the day and the trading is in the moment. So that should be the warning light in your brain should go off to kind of reset again and come back into the moment and focus on what are the trading decisions before you now, not what the day is going to look like at the end.
That's a good point. We got a lot of good questions here from our members. So Urbano's clarified, and I understand exactly what he's asking now. So he says basically he's fairly new at trading. He finds when he has a bad day, it not only affects him in the day, but he can't seem to shake that for the next day, right? It sort of rides with him. He's like, oh, I was really red yesterday, and it's still in the back of his mind. Any recommendations on exercises, or what can he do to sort of move past that so he can be in the present and focus on the day without worrying about the losses of the day before?
Well, the first thing I would say is you probably need to take like your own personal inventory on your personality and your relationship with money. Very often people get a little too perfectionistic when they start getting into trading, and trading is a humbling endeavor. And so there has to be an aspect and acceptance that there are trades that are going to be losers and there are going to be days that are going to be losers, and not to expect this kind of perfectionistic success all the time. So one really needs to kind of be okay and not self-judge oneself in a negative way just by a poor day. So I think that the anticipation of that is very important. It's really to kind of really acknowledge that this is part of the trading process, and to try to use that losing as a way. If you can identify a couple of things that you've done by reviewing your trades as opposed to putting yourself down, review the trades and see if you could point out some things that you actually didn't handle very well. And if you could come out with some corrective steps from that, that could propel you, because now you've learned something from those days, and it could increase the optimism that you have about putting and applying those new thoughts and those new ideas to your trading the next day.
That's a great
point.
suggestion, great recommendation. I'll just say, guys, as we're watching the markets here, we're heading towards the close. I missed the short opportunity on Microsoft. I was looking for it, but I didn't want to go chasing it. And there was, look at that $2 drop there. So there was an opportunity, but I did not trade it. To be clear, I did not trade Microsoft short. And now with only 6 minutes left, doesn't look like I will be. But anyways, back to our questions. There's so many of them in here. I think there was a good question from Nir where he was asking, he said, can self-discipline be practiced? Like, how do I get better at self-discipline, whether within trading or without, so that I stick, I'll add to it, but so that I stick to my rules better?
Well, yeah, self-discipline can be worked on. I would suggest a couple of things. With trading and off of trading, I think what you want to do is, one of the ways that you start is you set some goals for yourself of things that you want to do. So if one of the things that I think is good for trading is to kind of journal, and one of the things is discipline. Maybe right after the close, you're going to spend like a half an hour reviewing your journals on your trades, what went well, what didn't go well from a technical point of view, from a psychological point of view, jot down some notes, jot down some suggestions for the next day. A lot of people have a hard time, for instance, we've talked about exercise, making that, becoming more disciplined in that. So one of the things that you may want to do is you write out a schedule for yourself. And you want to make these goals at least kind of reachable and attainable. So a lot of times people set their goals too high, too fast, and then they break down pretty quickly, and then they say the heck with it. So again, if you're going to want to exercise, you may want to pick out a couple of days of the week that are going to be good. You may want to lay out your clothes, have a plan. Don't get into any internal debates in the morning about going out, just kind of follow through. But I think writing it down, trying to hold yourself accountable, but also be reasonable with yourself. Set up a schedule and a plan, again, that is attainable. It's not the future goal. You can always build up. But a lot of times, like the standard thing for men who start to run, they want to run, they go out, they never run before. They're not that in good shape. They run a mile on Monday, they run 2 miles on Tuesday, they run 3 miles on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, they try to run 4 miles and they get injured, and then they're out of action for months because they've just tried to do too much too fast. So again, incremental, gradual, slow changes with identifiable and reachable goals in small increments is really the best way. And then as you follow through on those, you kind of feel better about yourself, more confident. You can change those goals and increase, whatever aspects you're kind of working on. If it was exercise, it could be frequency or intensity, things like that.
Excellent. One made more of a statement than a question, but he said, from my brief experience in trading, I'm much less remorseful on trades that I have a clear plan on, as opposed to those that I place on sheer hope. Hope for me is when I mentally crumble. And I would agree with you. I used to have a boss that would always say, hope is not a strategy. And he used to react when we would say, well, what do you think your budget's going to come in at? And said, well, I hope to achieve, and hope is not a strategy. But you're right. I think you can be less remorseful on trades where you followed your plan, because win or lose, at least you can say, I understood what I was trying to achieve, and whether it worked or not, I was working against a plan. When you hope, and I find this in my case, I'm just like, you go in and you're like, come come on, would you go in my direction? Those feel bad because you're aware whether, I think, at least in my case, whether I'm conscious of it or not. I've realized later they hurt more because I knew it wasn't a mature trade. It wasn't a smart trade. And that hurt more than the loss, right? Because I actually took a dumb trade. The problem is sometimes you get rewarded for taking dumb trades, right? So, anyway.
Yeah. But but you're absolute, no. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. This was a nice compliment from Ray, Dr. Katz. He said, Dr. Katz's voice is magical. I've made my best trades of the day since he started talking. So,
hey, tell him the check is on the way. The check is on the way.
Anything nice you want to put an order for, Dr. Katz, so Ray can send to you and ship over to your place?
Well, you haven't heard that I've handled a bunch of ringers on this show, and so they're sliding in the compliments as we had pre-planned.
There you go.
Oh, I see. The check's going the other way because you paid him for that. Oh, well. I thought it was heartfelt. There we go. Question here from Ranajit. He's saying, I'm new to day trading during COVID-19 situation. Is it a good time to learn the market? I think experienced traders like our moderators here, Andrew, Brian, Peter, etc., everyone's seeing loss. I'm not sure what you mean. Everyone's losing? That's not the case. I think we're all having actually pretty good days. But anyways, what is your take on this? Ranajit, let me try and answer that partially first. I don't believe there's a good or bad time to learn. The best time is when you are ready. The markets are always in a state of change and a state of flux, and sometimes they're tumultuous and there's a lot happening. Sometimes they're sort of slow and steady, like usually the summers are. Not always, but usually. You just have to understand that it takes slightly different approaches and strategies to trade every type of market. So be aware that no matter when you start to learn or no matter when you're trading, you're going to be learning against a backdrop of a market that's operating in a certain fashion at this moment, and that could change halfway through the day, it could change tomorrow, or it could change next year. You never know. So, that's why trading is as it's deceptively simple, right? It's one of those things like golf. I just swing a stick and hit a ball. How tough could that be? Trading is, buy low, sell high. That sounds pretty darn simple, right? But the reality is, because it's an ever-changing landscape, it's much more complex. So I would say, no matter when you're learning, it's most important about how you're feeling and how you prepare yourself than what the market is actually, the state the market is in.
Well said, Peter. I agree. I think this has to be more about the individual. Peter and I have talked before about extrinsic and intrinsic motivation, and you want to be intrinsically motivated and have a strong passion and desire to get into trading. That is going to be a primary force in maintaining a kind of a trading career.
I did it again. I forgot to exit forward. All right. Okay. No harm, no foul. I got it. Okay. All out of forward. I heard the bell while I was talking, and I ignored it, forgetting once again that I was in a trade. All right, we're all good. Guys, look, thank you so much for your questions. We had a couple more we didn't get to. My apologies for that, but we are sort of at the end of the day. Why don't, with that, as always, Dr. Katz, you can tell everybody's very engaged and is always very eager to get your insight. So thank you for being here and sharing it with us.
Okay, guys, thanks very much. Have a good day.
And take care.
Thank you, Dr. Katz. Always appreciate your input.
Later, Jason. So, what an interesting day. We have got a couple of earnings I think we're looking at.
We got Lululemon, which will be interesting, as we've talked about.
Yeah. And one of the things we talked about was maybe doing a trade of the day. I think today, let me just go, I have to go back and find it here. The member trade of the day, 1 second. I think
Boeing came a little bit here. Sorry, go ahead. Didn't mean to cut you off there.
That's okay. I was just going to say my member trade of the day is going to go to Megan here. Megan made a short on AMD. I can see it looks like she went long and it failed, and then she reversed it and went short and was able to ride this thing all the way down. You can see sort of her entry up here. and then she was able to ride that trade with partials all the way down here. So being that it was her first day live, our member trade of the day absolutely has to go to Megan. So congrats on that. Sounds like you had a good green day. That's a good way to start. As we said, right? Don't let it go to your head though. It's a great start.
Yeah.
You know, slow and steady,
go to
keep
your
building
head.
on it. And hopefully tomorrow will be another one for you.
That is awesome.
So,
The computer spoke to her. Okay.
so
Well,
let's
that's always
see.
a good sign.
Adobe, Lululemon, Dave and Buster's, whose symbol is play.
Yeah.
Those are the big
We're
three,
gonna
I think,
play.
that I'd be watching.
Yeah,
Those
I'm looking at
P-
Lulu right now. Obviously hasn't said anything yet because it's not really moving.
Right. Let's see here what I got. So Lulu,
It must not be a couple hours.
Adobe doesn't usually trade well. So, and what is this
No,
PVH Corp?
Adobe usually sells off on earnings, and then typically people say, "Oh, just buy it when it drops," and then it comes back up. So
Yeah, and play. There isn't much happening anywhere. I think everybody's exhausted after the market downturn for the day. It's
yes,
Wall Street guys are hanging their heads.
they're
in
already
shame.
in the bar. They're they're at their desks drinking their scotch. They're not in the bar, obviously.
Yeah, that's right. Bars are closed. They're at the speakeasy, so they can.
The speakeasy, yeah.
So the way they're able to congregate without people knowing.
Mhm.
All right, RFIL. I saw that they were reporting. They have reported, but not. They're a small company, so not much going on there.
We see Wafu sort of hung in there today. It didn't really drop much after.
Yeah.
Had that
While we're
big run.
waiting for that, maybe we can review some of the things that we traded today. I mentioned that I traded Ford. It turned out to be my best trade of the day, even if it was potentially the most boring. I actually took two shorts on Ford. One I took. I'll show you here in the chart. Generally, I took one off. I love the double tops. So I saw the double top. I took a short. Came down here and I got stopped out right about here. But then I went short again, like 2 pennies later, saying, you know what, I still think this thing looks weak, and I put my stop above this yellow line, which is what we like to jokingly call the tinfoil hat line, because it represents the 8 a.m. candle. So see this candle that happens at 8 a.m. every day right here. You notice I've got the yellow line at the top and bottom of that candle because it does seem to set a range that stocks pay attention to. And in this case, look at this. Look, I mean, it bounced to the penny off of this line right here. So that's why I was using it to make my trade. So anyways, I went short, held on to this thing for the entire day, but you can see the entire day yielded me 30 cents at its best. So pretty slow trade, but because I had a 5-cent risk, I had massive share size and was able to hold it and just partial out over the course of the day. So that was my big trade of the day. Off the open, I know that Andrew was trading a couple things. He was able to get some great moves on CCL. I think, Brian, you took that too for this rise up off the open.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so that was a good trade you guys got into. What else? I know that some of our members, well, we were talking about Megan on her first day live, and she and several others traded AMD. I'm a little sheepish myself. I didn't trade it. I tend to watch AMD. What it didn't do is normally I like to see my double top pattern. And if you look at this pattern, right, while it did sort of put in a topping pattern, it didn't put in the double top the way I normally look for it. Therefore, it never created the entry signal for me. So I missed the move, but I mean, needless to say, it went down like most of the market all day. So there was definitely a trade opportunity in it. Sorry, I'm all over the place with my charts here. There we go. Get it fit back into the window.
I think somebody else who took a good trade today was Gina. I believe she shorted AMD at one point.
Right.
Was that today or was that yesterday? I think it was today. All the days are blurring together.
It should be what on what stock? Sorry, what symbol? Do you know?
AMD,
AMD. Oh, did she take the same trade?
believe it was. I
Okay.
think she took the short on AMD. Yeah.
Right. Well, there you go. Um, and yes, thank you, Mike, for letting me know. I don't know why I wasn't sharing a screen. I thought I was. I don't know what happened. I must have stopped sharing it by accident. Um, and what else? What else were people trading out there? I was really focused on, I said Ford for most of the day. I mean, we talked about Microsoft. Great trading opportunity in Microsoft. Microsoft was painful for me because I actually went short, knowing I went short early, right in here, and then I got stopped out when it moved back up, and I should have shorted it again. I knew I should have shorted again, but I said I got distracted around 10:45 when it happened, and I missed what was a wonderful, wonderful like $8 move here to the low of the day, and I'm still upset about it, but I'll get over it.
Yes, you will.
Yeah. What else? Did you trade anything else of interest today, Brian?
Not really. No, I didn't touch Lulu. I do not trade earnings reports.
I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them.
I do not.
Sam,
Look at Lulu's just went tankorama.
So let's take a look here. Yeah, Lulu's dropping. I saw the numbers. Let's get back to those. They missed their numbers both on revenue and on earnings per share. So that would explain why they're dropping. It wasn't a huge miss, but it was a miss. Play. So let's see what Play is doing. Play is also dropping. So this is David Buster's. They missed their number. Surprisingly, not so bad on revenue. They delivered 160 million worth of revenue versus 177 estimate, so off a bit. The earnings are what really hurt them. The estimate was they were going to lose 78 cents, and they actually lost $1.33. So that's about almost twice what the expectation was. And last but not least here, Adobe. Adobe actually, they missed on revenue but beat on earnings. So a mixed report on their side, and you can see they're actually going up.
Excuse me. Yep. Wow, Lulu, really? That's not good.
So Lulu, yeah, down 20 bucks now, $20. Yes. Well, let me again, Lulu. It's very rare when you get enough volume to make Lulu playable during the day. And Brian, I know that when you've watched it or pointed it out, I've taken a look, and it seems to me the spread is often pretty bad on Lulu.
Yeah. Well, usually because it's a high price stock to begin with, and as you said, it's not quite as liquid.
Yeah.
So spreads can be more can be wider than say a more liquid stock like AMD, for example.
There you go. Okay, so those are our earnings. I just the only other one I'd written down here was PVH. I don't see any news on PVH. What are they doing? Nothing going on there. It's a nicey stock, so yeah, I'm not going to see anything on it. All right. All right. What did Uber do? Uber, just a slow leaker today like the rest of the market. Grub, well, Grub, not surprisingly, sort of just held a level pretty much for the entire day. Remember, Grub is a buyout today by the Netherlands. They're from the Netherlands. Just Eat out of the Netherlands. So that was it. And mRNA, I know people are watching. Oh, it dropped towards the close. Look at that drop off of VWAP around 215. A couple of bucks lost there. So anyways, all right. That's it, I think, for our plays for today. So I think with that, maybe we'll call it a day here, Brian, and have a good evening. And we will see you tomorrow morning for the open. Tomorrow.
Yes, we shall.
tomorrow should be my last day with Carlos on the pre-market show as we do the intro for you, get you ready for the trading day. I'm hoping so that Norm will be in his new house. I know he's looking forward to it. He's actually moving. Tomorrow's the big day, and hopefully he'll get everything set up over the weekend such that he'll be back with Carlos for the open as he normally is. But in the meantime, Carlos and I will get you ready for your trading day starting at 8:30 here on YouTube. And of course, I open the room at 7:30 every morning. So with that, take care. Have a great night, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Yep. Everybody have a good night. Ciao for now, everyone. We don't know if, I don't think, yeah, I'm not sure what, I know Norm was moving in. I